Hey guys, welcome back to the Get in the Game Sports Podcast. I'm Sid, your host, and today we have with us Brent.
Hey.
Rohan.
What's up?
And Samir.
Hello.
Today we have with us Episode 4, 3 NBA return-to-play formats. And we're starting off with the World Cup format. The World Cup format. Adam Silver proposed the format inspired from the FIFA World Cup in late May, and I think it's the perfect format in this unprecedented time. So, how it is there are 4 groups of 5 teams, and each team would play opponents in their group twice for a total of 8 games. The teams with the best record would advance to the second round of the playoffs. And then it'll just be 7-game series to determine who's the champion. A total of 80 games could be played, possibly, compared to the total of 56 games that we would get in a traditional format of the playoffs. Fans really get the most out of this, and every game would be a must-win. All of the 20 teams coming to Disney would qualify, and the teams would be put into tiers. Tier 1 being something like Lakers, Bucks, Clippers, and Raptors. And it would just go by decreasing records. Yeah. Groups could be randomly selected, or a more dramatic way would be if top teams could select the teams that they want in their group in compensation for losing home court advantage in the playoffs, because everything's going to be held in Disney. So everything could be televised, from games to the drawings of the group, and it would just be more lucrative for the NBA, and I think the fans would get the most out of it.
Well, yeah, you can go say.
Yeah, so why it would be better than other formats is it wouldn't make sense to send the Kings, say, to do training camp for 3 weeks, then be quarantined at Disney, and then play 1 or 2 games for the play-in tournament, possibly, for the 8th seed. Because with the group stage, they would get to play 8 full games in a group. And it doesn't make sense to bring back teams like the Wizards and Hornets to play out like 8 more games for the regular season, who are both 5 games plus behind the 8th seed in both conferences. And if it's a 1 through 16 seed scenario, series like the Bucks versus Magic and Lakers versus Nets, we'd be locked into a boring week of playoffs games. They would only happen twice in the World Cup format.
Yeah, there's definitely more entertainment value, especially with the World Cup format. And I think the NBA could really benefit from something like this, because with the other formats, I guess it's very long and drawn out, especially with 7-game series. But with the with the World Cup format, I could see a big boost in entertainment. I could see more televised games. And I think it would be ultimately better for the NBA to make this transition to World Cup.
So I think for why the World Cup format is not the best idea. So more games of basketball gives a better chance to spread the coronavirus. The reason why basketball was shut down in the first place, because one player for some reason catches it, then with more games it's more easily spread. And obviously the number one priority of basketball or any organization is to safety. So yeah, more games would mean less safety. That's one of the reasons why I think the World Cup is a great idea.
If you play more games, then the safety of players will be in jeopardy more, or the safety of players will be in more jeopardy, because they're getting more exposure to each other and stuff like that. And the coronavirus is the whole reason the NBA shut down in the first place.
Yeah, overall.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're anyway playing games, though. Like, 56 games is a lot of games, and that's enough to catch the virus, and I wouldn't see why 80 games would be any worse. I mean,
80 is much more than 56. And if one person catches the coronavirus, then it's way more spread over. You could spread it way more.
Well, I mean, if somebody catches the virus, then the NBA is just going to shut down again. So.
Well, the other thing is with the World Cup format, it's like playing another regular season with 87 games. Even though it's a long drawn out.
Well, that's just the possible total games. If every game goes, if every series after the group stage goes into a game 7, that's the total number of games.
Yeah, but we're still looking at a lot of surplus of games, and we're looking at more competition.
Yeah, but I just see this as just it's the perfect time to do this in this unprecedented time, and there's so much more. Adam Silver, anyway, was kind of jealous of the Soccer World Cup format as he came out in January saying that. So I just think this is the perfect time to really expand into different formats that they could possibly use for entertainment purposes.
Also, yeah, certainly the World Cup format's definitely innovative. I think it provides a new aspect to NBA, and I think it's worth giving a shot, especially as you mentioned, Sid, like during these times when really nothing is considered guaranteed, and basically World Cup format would pretty much like put basketball back on the map.
Well, another reason why the World Cup format isn't the greatest idea ever is potentially gives teams that are outside the playoff tree right now, teams such as like the Wizards and other teams, they have an unfair advantage to make up ground on teams like the Bucks and the Lakers and the Celtics. I'm not saying that the Wizards are as good as these teams, but if you put them in the group stage format, because there are 20 teams and there would only be 16 in the playoffs, what I'm saying is that the Wizards have just as fair a shot to do something as the Lakers, say if LeBron or AD gets injured. And then basically what happens is the regular season, in which the Lakers earn so many more wins than the Wizards, just gets thrown out, and it's all for naught for the Lakers.
Yeah.
Right. Moving on to the 1 through 16 seeding.
Okay, so I did the 1 through 16 format. I think this is the best format because, well, travel's not an issue anymore because the playoffs are being held in one place in Orlando, Florida. And it brings a new sense of entertainment level where we get to see matchups that we wouldn't really see in the playoffs, such as the Heat and the OKC Thunder. And it gives more of a fair opportunity to all of teams, like in a matchup, let's say the Celtics and the Sixers. It gives a fair opportunity for both teams to win in the one place. And the format has been discussed about possibly being used, and under these circumstances, I think instead of the World Cup format, I think this will be the best format to try in these unprecedented times.
One thing I see with the 1 to 16 seeding, one thing that I don't think owners of the Eastern Conference teams like the Magic or the Pacers, like Eastern Conference teams who are lower seeded, they wouldn't really go for this because it gives them less of a chance to actually make the finals. So I'm not sure.
And some series like Lakers and Nets, well, it has little intrigue with Kyrie and KD sidelined. And I mean, if we really want to sit through a week plus of that, then I don't really think that's the best way to go about things. I don't think it's the most entertaining.
But then you also get series that you would never see any other time, like the Heat and the OKC Thunder.
Yeah, but in the World Cup format, it's just 2 games played against another team, and you get 5 different games that you would really never see conference-wise.
Yeah, but
I'd much rather see a standard 7-game series than a different type of format entirely.
I just think that this format lacks versatility compared to the World Cup format.
Also, one thing that this format does lack is the chance of an upset. So upsets would most likely disappear in the 1 to 16 format because, like, obviously the 1 seed is facing the 16th seed, the 2nd seed is facing the 15th seed, and so on and so forth. And fans, they really love to watch upsets. That's part of the reason why they love to watch basketball. They love seeing an underdog upset a heavily favored team. And with this format, potential for upsets most likely gets taken away.
I disagree. Like, if you look at a matchup with the Raptors and the Grizzlies, I think the Grizzlies have a fair chance to upset. Or like the Sixers and the Celtics. The Sixers have a real good chance of upsetting the Celtics in the first round.
Well, I don't really think there's a lot of talent on Showcase when it comes to a 16-seed playoffs. Obviously, we're not seeing matchups that we would traditionally see come if we were to use the traditional format that the NBA has been using since 2014, But as Brent was saying, like this format is like brings a new sense of entertainment. Like these matchups that are not traditional are what fans really want to see. They want to see teams that are going head to head, that are alike, and they're willing to basically compete with one another. They want to see competitiveness.
And this is going back to my point of the World Cup format. Many sports fans consider it one of the World Cup as one of the greatest events in sports history. And it's very exciting because it's just day-to-day games every day rather than, well, I mean, in the 1 through 16 and traditional, there is games every day, but there's just new games every day in the World Cup format, which is unlike any other format.
Well, that's not necessarily true since the one team in a group stage would have to face the other 4 teams twice. So
True, but there's more variety than the other two formats.
Yeah. Well, with the
I
1
don't
to
think
16,
NBA could venture out that much though. With 1 through 16, you're still getting 7-game series.
yeah, I think the 1 to 16 seeding is like combining a lot of the stuff from the World Cup and what we see in the traditional the traditional format. Obviously, with the traditional format, we're getting the 7-game series and the competition between these two teams. But from like the World Cup standpoint, we're getting a lot of the stuff from like the creation of like new matchups basically between these two and on basically matchups that we don't see that often, and that's what the variability and that the chance that there could be an upset is really what the 1 to 16 seeding is like meant for.
And another point for why World Cup would be better is that winners of the short series that would happen in the World Cup format would actually be stuck in Florida in 1 through 16 or traditional format without any other games to play, waiting for other series to finish up. Whereas the group stage would ensure that all teams would finish off within a day or two of each other before the second round begins.
yeah, but once the second round starts, then it's basically the same situation. If a team sweeps another team, then they're stuck waiting.
True, but first round of the playoffs is usually not that entertaining, as we've seen throughout the last couple of years. With the World Cup stage format, every round would be entertaining.
Well,
I disagree. With the 1 through 16, you get a lot of different entertaining matchups.
Yeah, that's the thing with the 1 to 16.
I mean, Bucks Magic, Brent, is that really entertaining?
No.
Well, that's just first round.
Exactly, but first
That's what
round in
we
the
got
World Cup
last
format would be fun. It'd be
But
fun
then
to
we look
watch.
towards but then there's other matchups such as Miami Heat versus Oklahoma Thunder, or Celtics versus Sixers, or Jazz versus Nuggets, for example. Like those are all good series because there's a lot of talent there to be displayed, and it gives us more of a fair opportunity to teams that are basically competitive with one another, but they're in different conferences, so they cannot. So in a traditional format, they may not be able to go up against these teams, but now they can compete head to head with these teams, and they can show that they are a true competitor.
In the World Cup format, though, they get to play against 4 other different teams twice, and it still gives opportunity for young rookie teams led by like the Grizzlies with Ja and maybe the Pelicans with Zion for them to really shine in the playoffs and maybe get a couple of upsets.
Pelicans aren't really a playoff contender.
Also, the Grizzlies are in the playoffs, so you could still make the same case if the traditional format happened. They still just have as fair of a chance as long as they're actually playing.
Well, the Pelicans aren't in, and with the World Cup
I
group
think
stage, we get to see Zion in the playoffs, maybe possibly go against LeBron.
But you could also see that in a 1 through 16 format.
Yeah, that's the same exact thing. Brent's format as well.
Technically, you could also see it in the traditional format if there is a
I
play-in.
just think 1 through 16 looks a lot better if you get a Pelicans versus Raptors matchup instead of Pelicans versus Lakers matchup with who we
Well,
get.
I'm just thinking that I'd like to see more games between every team and different games between every team rather than a simple 4-game series or 7-game series.
Overall, I think the mixing of like conferences, the interconference matchups are pretty. That's a pretty good idea because we get to see teams from different sides who would never end up going against each other in the first place. They could compete with one another, and that brings more entertainment value to not only the players but also the fans who are watching the series.
Okay. Now we're moving on to the traditional format.
Okay, so the traditional format, it's the same format as used in every other season. If you watch basketball, you know what the traditional format is. So some reasons why I think it's actually a good idea is it gives a sense of familiarity to the fans during different, aka coronavirus times. It helps less better teams in the East become more competitive in the playoffs, like the Magic and the Nets. And there will not be too many games, which would limit the spread of coronavirus.
Right. Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, this playoff format has been working for the last 7 years, since 2014. And with this format, we can see there's a lot of dynamic matchups between these two teams, between a lot of these conference roles. I think there's an escalated sense of competitiveness, and there's a greater competition between two teams, and I think that's what the traditional format offers.
Well, yeah, I see that as different rivalries that have been played out for every season could be matched again, like say Rockets versus Jazz. That's been going on for the last 3 years in the playoffs. But with the other two formats, maybe there could be new rivalries that could be made between teams, and we get to see a little more innovation.
Yeah, but would it really last? I mean, it's not like the World Cup format or the 1-16 seeding thing is going to go around forever.
Well, we don't know that. What if NBA fans, and what if it's more crossing to the NBA? What if it's more lucrative, as I said in my previous statement? What if I think the NBA then would take that format then if it's more lucrative and their fans' ratings are higher, right?
Well, with the travel issue, I mean, I don't think players would want to travel to the other side of the country just for one game and then have to travel all the way back, which is probably one main reason why the 1-16 seeding hasn't been adopted as yet.
True, but then maybe we can just keep it in one place and then give a little bit of perks to the teams that are higher seeded and have better records, winning percentages. Like they get to pick who's in their group stage, or they get to pick who's on their side of the conference for 1-16 seeding.
I mean, yeah, but I don't think once a coronavirus ends and everything more or less returns to normal, I don't think owners would go for something like choosing your teams. I think they would rather have the fans come in, and that's how they make more money. Like if you in your home stadium.
Well, Sid, yeah, Sid. I was just gonna say, going off your point about how in order to compensate for the lack of home court advantage, they're giving the teams more advantages as to who they want to play. Correct?
Yeah.
So with that, the problem is the good teams are going to choose teams that they know they can easily take down, and then there's going to be that loss of competitiveness. But with the traditional format, there's no subjective ability. It's how you played in the regular season.
Well, that's just a suggestion for what a perk could be for the teams.
Oh, okay.
Or they could just be randomly drawn. That's just another thing.
Yeah, but would there be any other type of perk if like that wasn't one?
If that wasn't one?
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't research anything outside of that, but there's possibly.
Also, with the traditional format, the Western Conference is better than the Eastern Conference. So intertwining the conferences wouldn't really give like great matchups between the West and the East, like one team from the West and one team from the East. But if you keep them in their separate conferences, there would be more competitive matchups because, well, the Western Conference, like in the Eastern Conference, are different in talent-wise from each other. So,
yeah, the majority of teams that are in the playoffs often end up playing the people who are the teams that are actually going to be with them, beside them in the playoffs. especially with the Eastern Conference, we see and like 3 to 4 games between the Sixers and Bucks, Sixers and Celtics, and so mixing that up would be a nice change per se, one could argue, but at the same time, it would also take away from the fact that these players have been training against their competition, and they know and they study what the other teams are doing in their conference. So that's why I think the traditional format outweighs like and is more beneficial than like the other ones.
Also, one other thing, the Dallas Mavericks, who are the 7th seed in the West, actually, if they were moved to the East, they would become the 5th seed, right behind the Heat. So that speaks to a competitive difference between the Western and the Eastern Conference.
Yes, you could say that. But I mean, who would not want to see the Heat zone defense and versus Luka and Kristaps?
Yeah, but
It'll be a great first round matchup.
That would be.
All right.
yeah, but what I'm saying is like Brooklyn, the 7th seed would. No, wait, never mind.
Right.
See, I just think that the NBA needs a change right now to really bolster their ratings right now, and
This
I
is
think
the
that
perfect
this is the
opportunity to do
perfect
it.
opportunity to do it.
No, wait. Basically, if you do the 1 to 16 seeding approach, the 16th to like the 13th or 12th seed would all be Eastern Conference teams, and for the most part would be Eastern Conference teams, and the one or bad Eastern Conference teams, and like the 1 to like 4 seed or something like that would be mostly good Western Conference teams, which doesn't really create a lot of entertainment.
Yeah, like especially this is a time of very uncertainty. So, taking a lot of risks, like implementing a new playoff format, could be ideal, but at the same time, doing what you know it works is probably going to be the best option here for the
Well,
NBA.
I don't know. I think Adam Silver and the organization has had a lot of time to mull this over, and I can't say, but I think they could be leaning towards a new format, at least this year. Can't say for the next couple of years, but at least this year. All right, well, time for some way too early finals predictions. I got the Lakers going up against the Bucks.
I have the Clippers matching up against the Sixers.
I got the Clippers going up against the Bucks.
For the finals matchup, I have the Lakers versus the Celtics.
Brent, you want to go first?
Yeah. Okay, so obviously mine is a little bit controversial, but the reason why I have the Sixers up here in the finals is because they took the Raptors, the NBA champions, the reigning NBA champions, to 7 games and lost on a game-winning shot. And with the coronavirus and the NBA shutting down, Ben Simmons will fully heal his back injury that he sustained against the Bucks, the last games last year. And Joel Embiid will be fully rested, and hopefully will be able to stay healthy throughout the playoffs.
Your Clippers.
And then for the Clippers, I just think that they're a better team than the Lakers, given that they took a fully healthy Warriors team to 6 games last year in the playoffs as the AC without Kawhi and Paul George. And now that you add them to the Clippers, I think they have a better chance of the Lakers.
Samir, you?
All right. Well, I have the Celtics and the Lakers in the finals. Obviously, this has been an iconic matchup for the last few decades. But I have the Lakers being there. Obviously, right now, before the coronavirus started and the NBA shut down, the Lakers were the number 1 seed at 49-14. Obviously, they have a lot of talent on their team, and they have a dual-headed threat, just like the Clippers. May even be better with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And then not to mention other superstars around the ball that should not be overlooked. I mean, we're talking about Kyle Kuzma and Danny Green, who are pretty elite scorers. And on top of that, they have some good big men down low, which include Dwight Howard. So obviously, I have the Lakers there because they're a very talented franchise, and they obviously with LeBron James have the caliber to go all the way to the finals. For the Celtics, I have them there because before the coronavirus shut down, the Celtics were in the third spot in the East, and and Celtics were there. They were trailing behind the Raptors, but not by very much. So I think the Celtics could definitely overtake a Raptors organization without any who are lacking superstars because they lost Kawhi Leonard. And now I think the Celtics, with their young talent in Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and also featuring star point guard Kemba Walker, can definitely take the Lakers in a finals. However, I do see the Lakers pulling this one out in a 6 or 7 game series because I mean both of these teams have a lot of talent on both sides of the ball, and they have tremendous coaching with Brad Stevens for the Celtics. And to be honest, I think this was going to be a very good series between the Celtics and Lakers.
Okay, well, for my prediction, you could say that I have the most common prediction in the group. And I just have the two best teams in the league right now. The Lakers, obviously, as Samir said, with that two-headed monster with Braun and AD, and with that solid supporting cast in Danny Green and Kyle Kuzma. But I think I want to really focus in on the Bucks with Giannis's development as a player, as he can start shooting threes and his expanding his range as a forward. And I think the emergence of Chris Middleton being an all-star this year, really that 3-and-D player for the Bucks there. And they have a good supporting cast with Eric Bledsoe and big man Brook Lopez. And I just think that these two teams are really gonna just demolished through the playoffs as LeBron is healthy this year. And they missed out on the playoffs last year because he was unhealthy. And I just think that they're gonna be superstars this year.
Who do you think will win?
I think that the Lakers are gonna win this year.
In how many games?
Maybe like 6. I don't think it's gonna go to 7.
Okay. So I obviously have the Clippers versus the Bucks in the finals. So reasons why I have the Bucks in the finals. Samir was saying about how the Celtics were like much better than the Raptors since they lost their best player, and I actually kind of do agree with that. I think the Celtics could beat the Raptors, but he never mentioned the Bucks and how the Celtics would beat the Bucks, and I don't really see the Celtics beating the Bucks because for one, the Bucks have a top 2 player in the league in Giannis Antetokounmpo. Basketball is one of the few sports where star power wins over more than any other sport. Also, they have another all-star in Chris Middleton, very good player. He's a really good shooter. They have a defensive stalwart in Dante DiFencio, and they also have other role players such as Eric Bledsoe, Brook Lopez, and Robin Lopez. Well, I was just kidding about Robin Lopez. No disrespect to him. But yeah, the Bucks actually have pieces around them where they can make a serious finals run. Giannis doesn't have to do everything. He could just kick it out to Chris Middleton and stuff like that. The Clippers, I have them over the Lakers because even though AD and LeBron is probably a better duo than Kawhi and Paul George, I see the surrounding cast of the Clippers as better as the surrounding cast of the Lakers since they have very good six-man benchmen in Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell. They have Ivica Zubac, and they have Pat Beverly, who's a defensive stalwart. Clippers have a very good defensive team, and I think they could definitely hold the Lakers in terms of limiting in points per game.
Samir, I mean, for me, I just don't see the Celtics. I see them making maybe the divisional or the conference semifinals, but I don't know. I just think they're too young. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have really upped their game this year, but I still think that they're too young and they'll probably lose to the Bucks or the Sixers.
Well, they also have other veteran leadership, such as
they have Kemba Walker.
And Kemba Walker, not to mention center Enes Kanter. So they also have a lot of puzzle pieces to build around their young core in Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. So the Celtics are not clearly out of it, but obviously with the Bucks, obviously you guys pointed out that star power is one of the key ways in being successful in the NBA. and both the Lakers and the Bucks have that. Celtics may lack a little bit in star power, but they do have tremendous coaching, as Brad Stevens has won Coach of the Year before. And honestly, I think the Lakers will definitely make the playoffs, the finals. And with the Celtics, that might be a little bit of a stretch, but I think the Celtics definitely have a good shot at making it.
And Brent, your Sixers, I mean, I think they are a really talented team on paper. You could possibly say the most talented team on paper in the Eastern Conference. But I just don't think that they've really gelled well together over the last 2 years of Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid's development together. And I just don't think that Joel Embiid is really a leader. I just don't see it being a team built around him, even though he is possibly the best center in the league. I just think he's very injury prone. His stats are good, but they're not consistent, which is one thing that you need to make a playoff push. And Ben Simmons, although he has talent and his mid-range jumper really needs to develop, I just don't see him being a playoff threat. Maybe conference finals at the max, but nothing else.
Yeah, also Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, yeah, you mentioned they don't gel well at all together. Plus, I don't really see how Al Horford fits with the team as well.
Al Horford is on the team as a possible backup center when Embiid goes down, and he's also there for veteran leadership and for Embiid to teach him the rope throughout the playoffs.
Well, I also think it goes back to coaching with Brett Brown. Yeah, he's a good coach, but he has nothing really to show for it. He hasn't had much success, and even though there's this whole thing going around with trust the process with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, I still don't think they really have good chemistry together, and that's why I think they're dragging the Sixers organization and pulling them back from a potential finals push.
And I just don't really think they match up well against other teams in their conference, like the Bucks. Giannis can really overpower, say, Tobias Harris. And the Celtics, Jason Tatum can also do the same.
Disagree, because they're going to put Ben Simmons, who's a great defender, on Jason Tatum and Giannis.
You sure?
I think so. He's 6'10".
Well, I mean, a lot of these teams are just not single. They don't just have single threats, right? They have a lot of other key aspects to their game. They have three-point shooters, like Chris Middleton's become a knockdown three-point shooter.
Yeah, who would the Sixers put on Middleton?
I would say they would put either Tobias Harris or Josh Richardson.
And who would the Sixers put on Robin Lopez?
I don't know, Al Horford or something.
Their mascot.
Well, honestly, I think with all of this, we'll see if there's going to be a finals this year, and depending on what the NBA chooses, and hopefully it'll happen.
All I'm hoping for is for one format and just for the NBA to resume. They were just talking on the Jump today that the NBA is thinking about just like pulling out of all of this, and I just don't think that's the right thing to do with how much they've said already about this and how much speculation has been given to this.
Well, I mean, some players believe it ultimately comes down to LeBron James, since he's like the most powerful figure in basketball, I guess. And he stated that he wants to play. So no matter how much the opposition with Kyrie Irving leading the charge, no matter how much they try, I don't think they could really do much.
Well, in the end of the day, it's just the NBA should value the player safety, and they should prioritize what the players' needs from a health standpoint. And if it's not in their best intention to start the NBA again, I fully understand that decision. But at the same time, on the fans' behalf, we really want to see some entertainment again, and it would be really enjoyable to be able to watch an NBA Finals, especially with two superstars or superpowers.
All right, well, that wraps up episode 4, you guys. Another NBA video is going to come out next. It's probably going to be a top 10 NBA players in the league video. Go check us out on Spotify and Instagram. Subscribe down below. Drop a like. And peace out, guys.